"I speak 11 languages," said the wronged young woman. The judge dismissed it until he saw what she did. Emily Rodriguez held the handwritten petition firmly as a scornful murmur filled the room. At 23, she had never set foot in a courtroom, but she knew this was the most important day of her life. When Judge Richard Thompson began reading her request for custody of her younger sister Lily, who was only 8 years old, a sarcastic laugh echoed through the chamber. The petition was full of grammatical errors, written in a shaky hand on sheets of notebook paper. "A cleaning lady wanting to raise a child?" said the magistrate, not even trying to hide his contempt. "Where have you ever seen such a thing?" Emily felt the heat rise to her face but kept her head held high. Across the room, her aunt Barbara Wilson Rodriguez, elegant in her navy blue suit, was whispering something to her lawyer, Mr. Anthony Parker. The 55-year-old woman had inherited a considerable fortune from her husband and now wanted custody of Lily. "Your Honor," interjected Mr. Parker, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses, "how can a person with no formal education, who can barely write correctly, offer a suitable future for a child? My client can provide a quality education, decent housing, and every opportunity a girl deserves." The lawyer pointed to Emily's documents with evident disdain. The young woman worked as a cleaner in 3 different places: a hotel in downtown New York, a law firm, and a medical clinic. Her hours were grueling. She woke up at 4 in the morning and only got home after 9 at night. "Just look," continued Mr. Parker. "She earns less in a month than my client spends in a week. How does she plan to give Lily a proper education? The girl needs a private school, English lessons, music, ballet. She needs to associate with respectable people, not grow up in a slum." Emily felt the tears threatening to fall, but she took a deep breath. She and Lily lived in a small 2-room apartment in Queens, on the east side of New York. It was simple, but it was their home. After their parents passed away in a traffic accident 2 years ago, she had taken full responsibility for her younger sister. "I work honestly," said Emily in a firm voice, even though she was trembling inside. "Lily is well cared for. She's in school. She has food. She has love." "Love?" laughed Aunt Barbara, speaking for the first time. "My dear, love doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't guarantee a future. I can offer Lily what you will never be able to. I have a 3,000-square-foot house in the Upper East Side. I can enroll her in the best school in New York. She can have private lessons in anything she wants." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like the video and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Judge Richard Thompson, a 60-year-old man with neatly combed grey hair, drummed his fingers on the desk as he reviewed the documents. His career had been built serving wealthy people, and he often showed impatience with cases involving low-income individuals. "Miss Rodriguez," he said, addressing Emily, "I'll be frank with you. Your situation is complicated. You work all day, earn little, live in a dangerous area. How do you plan to keep up with the school development of an 8-year-old child?" "I do keep up," replied Emily. "Every day I help Lily with her homework. She's doing very well in school." "What school?" asked Mr. Parker in an ironic tone. "A public school in the outskirts? My client can offer a bilingual education, exposure to other cultures, educational trips." "Bilingual education?" questioned Emily, feeling something awaken inside her. "English, obviously," replied the lawyer. "Essential these days." Emily looked at the social worker present, Dr. Carolyn Bennett, a woman of about 40 who had visited her home a few times. Carolyn had always treated her with respect, unlike the other people there. "Dr. Bennett," said Emily, "do you remember that time you came to my house and we talked about Lily's education?" "Yes, I remember," replied Carolyn. "You showed a lot of care and dedication for your sister." "She can't even hold a proper conversation," murmured Mr. Parker to Aunt Barbara, loud enough for everyone to hear. The judge checked his watch, visibly impatient. There were other cases to judge that afternoon, and this one seemed very simple to resolve. A cleaning lady against a wealthy widow? The decision was obvious. "Miss Rodriguez," he said, "I understand your concern for your sister, but I need to think about the child's best interest. Your aunt has far superior means to raise her." "May I speak, Your Honor?" asked Emily. You may, but be brief, replied the judge with a sigh, thinking it would just be a last emotional appeal. Emily stood up slowly. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was firm when she began to speak. I do work as a cleaning lady, she said. I clean floors, bathrooms, I dust. I wake up at 4 in the morning and go to sleep late at night. But there's one thing these people don't know. She paused, looking directly at the judge. At the hotel where I work, I listen to the guests' conversations. There are people from all over the world, and I learn to understand what they say. Understand? Questioned Mr. Parker. You mean you eavesdrop on other people's conversations? No, said Emily, taking a deep breath. I mean I learned their languages. A momentary silence fell over the room, followed by a burst of laughter from the judge. Ms. Rodriguez, he said, wiping a tear from laughing so hard, let's stop this performance. You're nervous, it's understandable, but you don't need to make up stories. I'm not making it up, insisted Emily. I speak 11 languages. The judge's laughter grew even louder. Mr. Parker and Aunt Barbara exchanged amused looks, as if they were watching a comedy show. 11 languages, repeated the magistrate. And what would those languages be, if I may ask? English, Spanish, French, Italian, German, Japanese, Mandarin, Arabic, Russian, and Hindi, said Emily, counting on her fingers. The room erupted in laughter. Even some court staff smiled discreetly. For those people, it was inconceivable that a cleaning lady from the outskirts could speak so many languages. My dear, said the judge, still recovering from his laughter, that's more inventive than a science fiction movie. What are you going to tell me next? That you're also a doctor of medicine in your spare time? I can prove it, said Emily, maintaining her dignity despite the laughter. Prove it? Asked Mr. Parker. How exactly? Let me speak with someone here who speaks another language, requested Emily. The judge shook his head, still smiling. Miss Rodriguez, let's end this performance. I will not turn my courtroom into a theatre stage. Please, insisted Emily. It will only take a minute. Dr. Bennett, who had watched the entire situation in silence, decided to intervene. Your Honor, she said, if I may, I think Miss Rodriguez deserves a chance to defend herself properly. The Code of Civil Procedure guarantees the right to due process and a full defense. The judge sighed, clearly annoyed by the insistence. He checked his watch again and realized he still had time before the next case. All right, he said finally. But it will be quick. And when it's proven that this is fantasy, I want you to accept the decision without further questioning. Emily nodded, feeling her heart race. She looked around the room and saw a Mandarin interpreter who was there for another case, a middle-aged Asian woman named Jennifer Chen. Can I speak with you over there? Asked Emily, pointing to the interpreter. The judge motioned for Jennifer Chen, who approached curiously. 您好，我的名字是玛丽安诺 said Emily in perfect Mandarin. 我正在为我妹妹的监护权而战。我想向法官证明我能说多种语言，这表明我有能力教育她。Jennifer Chen's eyes widened, clearly surprised. Emily's fluency was impressive without a heavy accent or hesitation. She said, translated Jennifer Chen for the astonished room, that she is fighting for custody of her sister and wants to prove to the judge that she speaks multiple languages to demonstrate her ability to educate her. The judge's mocking smile began to fade. Dr. Parker cleared his throat, trying to find an explanation. She must have memorized a few phrases, said the lawyer quickly. Anyone can memorize random words. 你想让我谈论什么? asked Jennifer Chen, testing if she really understood. 请告诉我您学习中文的故事。我在酒店工作时学会了中文 answered Emily fluently. 有很多中国客人，我喜欢听他们说话。起初我不明白，但慢慢的我开始识别单词和短语。我开始在网上学习，观看视频，练习发音。花了2年时间，但我学会了。我学习语言是因为他们让我感觉与世界相连，即使我只是一个清洁工。Jennifer Chen was visibly moved by the answer. She turned to the judge and explained. She said she learned Chinese by listening to the Chinese guests at the hotel where she works. She said she started out not understanding anything, but little by little, she began to identify words and phrases. She studied online, watched videos, practiced pronunciation for 2 years until she could speak fluently. She said she learns languages because they make her feel connected to the world, even though she is just a cleaner. A heavy silence fell over the courtroom. The judge was no longer laughing. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Dr. Parker tried to regain control of the situation. Maybe she did learn a little Chinese, he admitted reluctantly, but that doesn't change the fact that my client has far superior financial means to raise the girl. Can I try with another language? Asked Emily, gaining confidence. The judge, now visibly disconcerted, nodded affirmatively. Emily noticed a security guard of Venezuelan origin near the door, named Carlos Ramirez. ¿Puedo hablar contigo? She asked Carlos in fluent Spanish. Carlos approached, intrigued. Claro, ¿de qué quieres hablar? He replied. Quiero contarte mi historia, said Emily. Soy huérfana. Cuido de mi hermana menor desde hace 2 años. Trabajo como empleada de limpieza en 3 lugares diferentes para poder mantenerla. Aprendí español escuchando a los huéspedes del hotel donde trabajo. También estudié online, viendo telenovelas colombianas y mexicanas. Me llevó mucho tiempo, pero logré aprenderlo porque quería comunicarme con personas de diferentes culturas. Carlos nodded, impressed not only by the fluency, but by the naturalness of the accent. Su español es excelente, he said to the judge. Habla como si hubiera vivido en un país hispanohablante, y su historia es muy conmovedora. The lawyer for Aunt Barbara Wilson started to look visibly nervous. This was not going according to plan. Your Honor, said Dr. Parker, this is all very interesting, but it doesn't change the fact that my client can offer a formal education, private school health insurance. Can you let me try one more? Interrupted Emily. The judge, now completely absorbed by the situation, called upon Dr. Audrey Fontaine, a sworn French translator, who was in the courtroom for another proceeding. Bonjour, madame, said Emily with a perfect Parisian accent. Je m'appelle Émilie Rodriguez. Je travaille comme femme de ménage, mais j'ai appris le français en écoutant les clients de l'hôtel où je travaille. I've always been fascinated by foreign language. They represent a window into other cultures and different ways of seeing the world. Dr. Audrey Fontaine was stunned. It wasn't just the fluency that was impressive, but the choice of words, the sentence structure, the elegance of expression. Where did you learn to speak so well? Asked the translator. Your Parisian accent is perfect. I listen to a lot of French tourists, replied Emily. I also watched French films with subtitles, read books, studied grammar on my own. It took me 3 years to master the language. The translator turned to the judge with a look of pure astonishment. Your Honor, this young woman speaks French better than many French people I know. She doesn't just speak it. She masters the subtleties of the language. That takes years of dedicated study. At this point, Aunt Barbara began whispering nervously with her lawyer. Things were not going well for them at all. All right, said the judge, clearly shaken. Let's suppose you really do speak some languages. That is deemed impressive. But how did you learn all this? And why didn't you mention it before? I tried to mention it, Emily replied. But when I got here, everyone had already decided I was just an ignorant cleaner. No one really wanted to listen to me. Emily's words echoed through the room with an uncomfortable truth. The judge remembered how he had laughed at her initially, without giving her a proper chance to explain. How do you find the time to study so many languages while working so much? Asked Dr. Carolyn, genuinely curious. I study in the early morning, explained Emily, when Lily is asleep, from 2 to 4 a.m. before I go to work. And on weekends when she's playing. I use phone apps, watch videos on YouTube, talk to people online. And Lily, asked the judge, isn't she affected by your absence? Lily studies with me, said Emily with pride in her voice. She already knows the basics of English and Spanish. We're studying together. I teach her everything I learn. Mr. Parker tried a new strategy. Your Honor, even if Miss Rodriguez has this talent, it doesn't change the fact that she lacks financial stability. My client can ensure that Lily attends the best schools, has access to professional language courses. May I speak a bit more? Asked Emily. The judge nodded, now genuinely interested in hearing her. What I haven't mentioned yet, said Emily, pulling some crumpled papers from her bag, is that I work as a translator in the early morning hours. A total silence fell over the room. What do you mean, translator? Asked the judge. I work online for international companies, explained Emily, showing the documents. I translate contracts, technical documents, websites. I get paid per project. It's not much, but it helps supplement my income. Mr. Parker took the papers and began examining them, looking for any irregularities. These could be forgeries, he said. Anyone can print fake documents. Would you like me to call one of my clients right now? Offered Emily. In my courtroom, we are not going to make phone calls, the judge began. Please, insisted Emily. It will just take a minute. You can put it on speakerphone for everyone to hear. The judge hesitated, but curiosity won out. He motioned for her to make the call. Emily dialed a number and activated the speakerphone. After a few rings, a male voice answered in German. Guten Tag, Mariana. Wie geht es dir? Said the voice on the other end of the line. Guten Tag, Mr. Weber, Emily replied fluently. Es tut mir leid, Sie zu stören, aber ich bin gerade vor Gericht und brauche Ihre Hilfe, um zu beweisen, dass ich wirklich für Ihr Unternehmen arbeite. Natürlich, the man replied enthusiastically. Emily is one of our best translators. The room fell into complete silence as they listened to the fluent conversation in German. Could you please repeat that in English? Asked Emily. The people here don't speak German. Of course, said Mr. Weber, switching to English. Emily is one of our best translators. She has translated very important contracts for our company. Her work is always accurate and on time. We have been working with her for over a year now. The judge looked at Dr. Audrey, who confirmed she had perfectly understood both the German and the English. Could you tell us how much Emily earns per month working for your company? The judge asked directly. She earns approximately 800 to 1,000 euros per month, depending on the volume of work, replied Mr. Weber. It's good money for freelance translation work. When Emily hung up, the courtroom was in absolute silence. Dr. Parker quickly calculated that this represented something between 5,000 and 6,000 reais per month, a very respectable amount. Why didn't you mention this from the beginning? Asked the judge, his tone completely different from before. I tried, Emily replied with dignity, but you didn't want to listen to me. You judged my appearance and my profession before knowing my story. The truth of Emily's words hit the judge like a punch in the stomach. He remembered how he had laughed at her, how he had assumed that a cleaning lady couldn't have anything interesting to say. Aunt Barbara, who had remained silent during the latest statements, decided to intervene. This is all very nice, she said, in a slightly trembling voice, but you're forgetting that I can still offer much more. Lily needs stability, a structured home, not a sister who stays up all night working. Do you have children? Emily asked her aunt directly. No, but, Barbara began. Have you ever taken care of a child in your life? Well, no, but I can afford to hire specialized nannies. Lily doesn't need a nanny, Emily said firmly. She needs love, attention, someone who knows her fears, her dreams, her quirks. Someone who knows she doesn't like carrots, that she's afraid of the dark, that she loves to draw. Money solves those things, Barbara retorted, but her voice no longer sounded so confident. Money doesn't give you a cuddle at bedtime, Emily replied. It doesn't help with homework patiently. It doesn't hold your hand when she has a nightmare. Dr. Carolyn decided to intervene at this point. If I may, Your Honor, she said, I have visited Miss Emily's home a few times. Lily is well cared for, happy, and developing appropriately in school. The bond between the two sisters is very strong. But what about future opportunities, insisted Dr. Parker. My client can provide an elite education, important social contacts. What kind of contacts? Asked Emily. People who will judge Lily by her skin color, by her social origin. People who will laugh at her if she doesn't know how to use the right fork. Emily's question was spot on. Aunt Barbara averted her eyes, knowing there was truth in those words. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The judge pulled up a chair and sat down, visibly shaken by everything he had witnessed. His worldview had been profoundly questioned that afternoon. Miss Rodriguez, he said, I must admit you have completely surprised me. Your language skills are truly impressive, but I need to understand your situation better. How do you manage to juggle 3 jobs, studies, and caring for Lily? It's difficult, Emily admitted, very difficult. There are days I come home so tired I can barely stand, but Lily is my responsibility. She's all that's left of our family. I promised my mother before she passed that I would take care of Lily forever. And the languages? Asked Dr. Carolyn. How did that interest begin? Emily Rodriguez took a deep breath before answering. It started when I was a child, she said. My mother worked as a housekeeper for a wealthy family. Sometimes she would take me with her, and I was fascinated listening to the lady of the house speak English on the phone. It sounded like a secret code, you know. I started paying attention, trying to understand. And then, encouraged the judge, after I started working at the hotel, I realized I could learn a lot just by listening. We have guests from all over the world, Japanese, Italian, Arabic. I started noticing patterns, words that repeated. Then I went after proper study. By yourself? Asked Dr. Parker, still skeptical. The internet is a free university, Emily replied. There are courses for everything, apps, videos, podcasts. You just have to want to learn. But that must take a lot of time, observed Aunt Barbara. Time you should be dedicating entirely to Lily. Lily studies with me, Emily repeated. She thinks it's fun. She already knows how to count to 100 in English and Spanish. She knows how to greet people in several languages. She enjoys it. It's not a chore. The judge stood up and walked to the window, thoughtful. The afternoon was getting late, and he knew he needed to make a decision. But how could he judge a case that had turned everything he believed upside down? Miss Rodriguez, he said, turning to Emily, I'm going to ask a direct question. If your aunt offered a monthly sum to help support Lily, with you keeping custody, would you accept? Before Emily could answer, Aunt Barbara quickly spoke up. I did not offer that, she said with an indignant tone. I'm asking hypothetically, clarified the judge. Emily looked at her aunt, then at Lily, who was sitting at the back of the room next to a neighbor who had offered to accompany her. It depends, said Emily cautiously. Depends on what? If it's help without interference, without my aunt trying to control how I take care of Lily, I would accept. But if it's for her to try and run our lives, I won't accept it. The honesty of the answer impressed everyone. Emily wasn't rejecting help out of pride, but setting clear boundaries. And if I guaranteed a private school education for Lily? Asked Aunt Barbara, trying a new approach. Private school isn't a guarantee of anything, Emily replied. There are educated people who are bad characters and simple people who are honest. The important thing is for Lily to be happy and become a good person. But she needs opportunities, insisted Barbara. And she will have them, Emily said with conviction. I will give her every opportunity I never had. She will know languages. She will see the world. She will study. But she will also know where she came from. She will know the value of things. Dr. Parker realized he was quickly losing ground. Your Honor, he said, I would like to question Miss Rodriguez's emotional stability. A person who works so much, sleeps little, has such a hectic life. Can she really provide the calm environment a child needs? The question was like a stab to Emily's heart. That was exactly what she feared most, that they would judge her difficult situation made her unfit to care for Lily. I can answer that, she said, but this time in Italian. La mia vita è difficile, è vero. Lavoro molto, dormo poco, a volte sono stanca, ma amo mia sorella più della mia stessa vita. Ho imparato l'italiano ascoltando gli ospiti dell'hotel dove lavoro. Ogni lingua che ho imparato mi ha insegnato qualcosa sulla resilienza, sulla perseveranza, sulla bellezza di non arrendersi mai. In the room was an Italian businessman, Mr. Anthony Marino, who was waiting for another case. He stood up, visibly moved. May I translate? He asked the judge, who nodded affirmatively. She said, her life is difficult. She works a lot, sleeps little, and is sometimes tired. But she loves her sister more than her own life. She learned Italian by listening to the guests at the hotel where she works. Every language she learned taught her something about resilience, perseverance, and the beauty of never giving up. Mr. Anthony addressed Emily directly in Italian. Quanto tempo ha impiegato per imparare l'italiano? La sua pronuncia è perfetta. 2 years, replied Emily. I watched many Italian films, studied grammar online, and practiced with guests who were kind enough to talk to me. Incredibile, said Mr. Anthony, turning to the judge. Her pronunciation is better than that of many Italians I know. And she learned it on her own by listening to conversations at work. That requires exceptional intelligence. The Italian businessman paused, as if thinking about something important. Scusi, he said to Emily. Do you only work as a cleaner and translator? Sì, replied Emily, confused by the question. Ho una proposta da farle, he said excitedly. My company needs a translation coordinator. It pays well and has flexible hours. Would you be interested? Emily was speechless. The man was offering her a job right there in the middle of the courtroom. Veramente? She asked, unable to believe it. Sì, veramente. A person with your intelligence and dedication deserves better opportunities. The judge watched the entire scene with growing admiration. That young woman had turned a custody hearing into a display of talent that was impressing everyone. Mr. Marino, said the judge, could you explain your offer to the court in English? Certainly, replied the businessman. I offered Miss Emily a job as a translation coordinator at my company. It's a position with a very good salary and flexible hours, which would allow her to properly care for her sister. Aunt Barbara paled. This was getting completely out of control. But that doesn't solve the problem of formal education, said Dr. Parker desperately. Lily needs a quality school, not just a sister who speaks languages. May I speak in Russian now? Emily asked the judge. He nodded, no longer even surprised. «Я изучила русский язык, потому что хотела читать Достоевского в оригинале», Emily said fluently. «Каждый язык открывает новый мир, новый способ мышления. Я хочу передать эту любовь к изучению Лили». In the room was a Russian language professor from NYU, Dr. Natasha Petrov, who was observing an immigration case. She said, translated Dr. Natasha, clearly impressed, that she learned Russian because she wanted to read Dostoevsky in the original, that every language opens a new world, a new way of thinking, and that she wants to pass on this love of learning to Lily. Her pronunciation is excellent, continued Dr. Natasha, and the reference to Dostoevsky shows a deep knowledge of Russian culture, not just the language. The judge sat back down, running his hands through his hair. He had never witnessed anything like it in his 20-year career. Miss Rodriguez, he said, you have given me a lesson in humility today. I need to make a public confession. I judged you by your appearance and profession, and I was completely wrong. Everyone judges, Emily replied kindly. I myself have judged people by their appearance. The important thing is to recognize when we are wrong and try to make it right. Emily's generous response deeply touched the magistrate. Here was a young woman who, despite being publicly humiliated, held no grudges. But I would like to understand one thing, the judge continued. How do you find the time to study so much with such a demanding routine? I make use of every little bit of free time, explained Emily. On the bus, I listen to English podcasts. During lunch, I watch YouTube videos. When I'm cleaning, I repeat vocabulary in my mind. We always find time to do what we really want. And doesn't Lily feel neglected? Lily is my study partner, said Emily with a smile. She helps me practice pronunciation. I teach her new words. We turn studying into a game. May I speak with Lily? Asked the judge. Emily motioned to the girl, who approached timidly. Lily was a beautiful little girl, with curly hair and bright eyes, wearing a simple but clean school uniform. Hi, Lily, said the judge in a gentle voice. Do you like studying languages with your sister? Yes, I do, replied Lily in her sweet little voice. Emily teaches me lots of things. I already know how to say hello and hola and ciao. And what else does she teach you? She teaches me that it doesn't matter where we come from, it matters where we want to go, said Lily, clearly repeating something she had heard from Emily many times. The little girl's words echoed through the courtroom like a thunderclap. It was impossible not to be moved by the simple yet profound wisdom that Emily had passed on to her sister. Lily, asked the judge, do you want to live with your Aunt Barbara? The girl looked at her aunt, then at Emily, and shook her head no. "I want to stay with Emily," she said. "She's been taking care of me ever since Mom and Dad went to heaven." "Why?" "Because she loves me," Lily replied simply, "and because she makes me laugh when I'm sad." Dr. Parker tried one last gambit. "Lily," he said, "but your aunt can give you expensive toys, pretty clothes, a fancy school. Don't you want those things?" Lily thought for a moment before answering. "I want to stay with the person who loves me," she said. "Toys break, clothes get too small, but love never runs out." The 8-year-old's answer was wiser than many legal arguments the judge had heard in his life. He felt his eyes well up. Aunt Barbara, realizing she was losing the battle in a humiliating way, decided to appeal to emotion. "Lily," she said, "I love you too. I'm your aunt. I'm family too." "But you never came to visit me," replied Lily with the brutal honesty of children. "You only showed up after Mom and Dad were gone." "I was busy," said Barbara, unable to find a convincing justification. "Emily was never too busy for me," countered Lily. At that moment, Ms. Bennet asked to speak. "Your Honor," she said, "I would like to present to the court the report from my visits to Miss Emily's home." She opened a folder and began to read. "Lily is well fed, attends school regularly, and is up to date on all her vaccinations. The apartment where they live is simple but clean and organized. Lily has her own space to study and play. I observe that Emily dedicates every evening to helping Lily with her homework." "And the child's emotional situation?" asked the judge. "Lily appears to be happy and secure. She has an affectionate relationship with her sister and constantly talks about Emily's languages. She shows pride in her sister and an interest in learning as well." "Any signs of neglect or mistreatment?" "None. On the contrary, I observed exceptional care. Emily demonstrates a deep understanding of Lily's routine, preferences, and needs." Ms. Bennet's favorable report was a final blow to Aunt Barbara's claims. "I would like to present one more demonstration," Emily said respectfully to the judge. "You may proceed." Emily addressed a custodian who was in the courtroom, an older gentleman of Arab origin named Karim. "Assalamu alaikum," she said in perfect Arabic. "اسمي مريانا أعمل كعاملة نظافة مثلك. تعلمت العربية من ضيوف الفندق وأريد أن أعلم أختي أن التعلم ليس له حدود." Karim was visibly moved. "And peace be upon you too," he replied. "That's wonderful. Your Arabic is excellent." He turned to the court and explained in heavily accented Portuguese. "She greeted me in Arabic and said she works as a cleaner, just like me. She learned Arabic from hotel guests and wants to teach her sister that learning has no limits. Her Arabic is very good, very difficult to learn alone." "Thank you, Karim," said Emily in Arabic, then translated for the court. I said, "Thank you" to him. The judge shook his head, completely won over by Emily's demonstration. "Miss Rodriguez," he said, "I must admit you have taught me more about education, determination, and family love in one afternoon than I've learned in years on the bench." "Every person has a story to tell," Emily replied humbly. "Sometimes we just need to stop and listen." "Do you have any more languages to demonstrate?" asked the judge, with a smile mixing admiration and disbelief. "I do. I can show Japanese and Hindi too, if you'd like." "That won't be necessary," said the judge, raising his hand. "I believe your linguistic abilities have been more than sufficiently proven." Mr. Parker made one last desperate attempt. "Your Honor, all these demonstrations are impressive, but they don't change the fact that my client has superior financial stability. Miss Emily may be talented, but she is still a low-income person." "Mr. Parker," said the judge in a firm tone, "I'll ask a direct question. How much does your client plan to spend monthly on Lily's education?" "Approximately $500 a month," replied the lawyer. "And you, Miss Rodriguez?" asked the judge. "How much do you spend on Lily's education?" Emily thought for a moment. "I spend about $40 a month on school supplies, books, internet for studying. But I also spend time, which is priceless. Every day, an hour helping with homework, weekends teaching languages, holidays taking her to free museums." "Museums?" asked Aunt Barbara with disdain. "What kind of education is that?" "The education of curiosity," replied Emily. Lily has already visited the National Language Museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Museum of Modern Art. All free on Sundays. She knows the history of our city, our culture. And what does she learn in these places? Asked the judge, interested. She learns that knowledge has no social class, said Emily. That beauty exists everywhere. That we can always learn, no matter how much money we have in our pocket. Lily approached Emily and whispered something in her ear. What did Lily say? Asked the judge. She asked if she can show you the drawing she made of the National Language Museum, said Emily affectionately. Lily ran over to a neighbor and came back with a small backpack. She took out a notebook and showed a colorful drawing representing the museum. This is the place where words were born, explained Lily, pointing to the drawing. Emily took me there and said every word has a story, just like people. The drawing was simple but revealed the care and attention with which the girl had observed the place. And this one, Lily continued, turning the page, is the MoMA. Emily explained to me that art is a language too, just without words. The judge examined the drawings carefully. It was evident that Lily was receiving an education rich in experiences, even without abundant financial resources. Mr. Parker, said the judge, has your client ever taken a child to a museum? The lawyer looked at Aunt Barbara, who shook her head negatively. No, but she can hire specialized guides, he said defensively. A specialized guide doesn't hold your hand when the child gets scared, observed Emily. They don't explain things in words she understands. They don't answer 40 questions a minute with patience. Emily's observation deeply touched everyone present. It was impossible to deny that love and personal dedication could not be bought. At that moment, the court psychologist, Dr. Michael Sullivan, asked to speak. Your Honor, he said, I have observed this entire hearing and would like to make a few observations from a psychological standpoint. You may speak, Doctor. Miss Emily Rodriguez has demonstrated characteristics of an exceptional caregiver. First, she has a deep understanding of Lily's specific needs. Second, she uses creative strategies for education and development. Third, she demonstrates resilience and an ability to overcome challenges that serve as positive examples for the child. And what about the multilingualism? Asked the judge. Multilingualism is indicative of superior intelligence, focus, and discipline. But more importantly, the way she uses these skills to include Lily in the learning process demonstrates exceptional intuitive pedagogy. And the financial aspects? Income is not a direct indicator of caregiving ability, explained Dr. Michael. We constantly see children from wealthy families with serious emotional problems. What matters is emotional stability, consistency in care, and the demonstration of unconditional love. And in Lily's specific case, Lily appears to be emotionally healthy, secure, and happy. She has a positive role model in her sister, who teaches her important values like perseverance, the importance of knowledge, and overcoming adversity. The psychologist's testimony was devastating for the Aunt Barbara Wilson Rodriguez's case. She realized she had completely lost control of the situation. Your Honor, she said, standing up abruptly, I would like to make a proposal. You may speak. Perhaps I was too hasty, said Barbara, her voice trembling. Perhaps it really is best for Lily to stay with Emily, but I would like to contribute financially to her education. What kind of contribution? Asked the judge. 1,000 reais per month, said Barbara, to help with the costs. Emily looked at her aunt in surprise. That is a generous offer, said the judge, but the decision is up to Miss Emily. I accept, said Emily, but with a few conditions. Which are? First, I will not accept any interference in how I raise Lily. Second, I want you to spend time with her, but without trying to change our routine. Third, if you ever try to use the money to blackmail me, I will return every penny and cut off the relationship. Emily's conditions were firm but fair. They showed that she wasn't rejecting help out of pride, but protecting the autonomy of the family she had built with Lily. I accept the conditions, Barbara said quietly. And there's one more thing, Emily continued. If you really want to be part of Lily's life, you'll have to learn to respect where we come from. We are not ashamed of being poor. We are not ashamed of working an honest job." "I understand," said Barbara, visibly embarrassed. The judge observed the entire negotiation with growing admiration. Emily was demonstrating a maturity and wisdom that far exceeded her age. "Very well," the judge finally said. "We have reached an agreement that seems to benefit everyone, especially Lily." "May I say one last thing?" Emily asked. "Of course." "I wanted to thank all of you," said Emily, looking around the room. "Today I learned that sometimes you have to fight to be heard, but when people truly listen, they can change their minds." "And I learned," said the judge, "that I should never judge anyone by their appearance or profession. You have given me a life lesson I will carry forever." "We are all human," Emily replied. "We all make mistakes. The important thing is to recognize them and try to be better." At that moment, Mr. Anthony Marino approached again. "Miss Emily," he said, "my job offer still stands, and after seeing your demonstration here, I have increased the salary. 8,000 Rs per month, flexible hours, possibility to work from home when necessary." Emily was stunned by the offer. 8,000 Rs, she repeated, unable to believe it. "Your talent is worth that, and much more," said Mr. Anthony. "People like you are rare: intelligence, dedication, humility. These are qualities that can't be taught." "I accept," said Emily with tears in her eyes. "Thank you so much for the opportunity." "I'm the one who should thank you," replied the businessman. "My company will be much better with you on the team." The judge symbolically banged the gavel. "It's decided then," he said. "Custody of Lily Rodriguez is granted to her sister, Emily Rodriguez. Furthermore, I order Barbara Wilson Rodriguez to pay monthly child support of 1,000 Rs to help with the minor's education, as agreed between the parties." Spontaneous applause broke out in the room. All present had witnessed an incredible transformation. A hearing that began with humiliation and prejudice ended with recognition and opportunities. Lily ran to hug Emily, who picked her up and spun her in the air. "We did it," whispered Emily into her sister's ear. "I knew we would do it," replied Lily. "You are the smartest person in the world." "No, I'm not," said Emily, laughing through her tears. "I'm just someone who never gave up on learning." Dr. Parker approached Emily with a shameful expression. "Miss Rodriguez," he said, "I must apologize for my behavior. I completely underestimated you." "You don't need to apologize," Emily replied generously. "You were doing your job, defending your client." "No," insisted the lawyer. "I was prejudiced and disrespectful. You taught me something important today." "What was it?" "That education isn't measured by a diploma but by wisdom, and you have more wisdom than many people I know with PhDs. The conversation between Emily and Dr. Parker was observed by everyone with admiration. The young woman held no grudges. She didn't use the moment of victory to humiliate those who had humiliated her. Aunt Barbara approached timidly. "Emily," she said, "can I talk to you for a minute?" "Of course, Aunt. I apologize," said Barbara with difficulty. "I thought you weren't capable of taking care of Lily. I was completely wrong." "You didn't know me," replied Emily. "It's normal to have doubts." "No, it wasn't normal," insisted Barbara. "I judged you by your social condition, and that was very wrong. You are an extraordinary woman. Thank you for recognizing that. Can I visit Lily from time to time?" asked Barbara hesitantly. "I promise not to interfere. I just wanted to get to know my niece better." "Yes, you can," said Emily. "Lily needs to know her whole family. But you'll have to understand that our life is simple. We don't have a maid, we don't have a car, we don't have a big house." "I want to know your real life," said Barbara. "I want to learn too." "Learn what?" "To value what really matters," replied Barbara, looking at Lily with genuine affection for the first time. The judge observed all these reconciliations with a warm heart. He had rarely witnessed a hearing that ended with so much personal growth for everyone involved. "Miss Rodriguez," he said, "before we conclude, I would like to make a personal request." "Of course, Your Honor. Would you be able to give a lecture to other judges about the importance of truly listening to people before judging them?" Emily was surprised by the request. "Me? Give a lecture to judges?" "Yes. You taught us more about justice today than many law books. But I don't know how to speak in public, said Emily shyly. You just spoke to a whole room in 11 languages, the judge reminded her, smiling. I think you'll do just fine. If it's to help other people, I accept, said Emily after thinking for a moment. Great, I will contact you soon. Dr. Carolyn approached Emily with a form. Emily, she said, I just need your signature here to make the decision official. Emily signed the document with trembling hands. It was the end of a long nightmare and the beginning of a new life. Can I do one more demonstration? Asked Emily to the judge when it seemed like everything was over. One more, laughed the magistrate. How many languages do you speak again? Hindi, said Emily. It's the last one I learned. She turned to a cleaning staff member of Indian origin who was tidying the room. Namaste, said Emily. मेरा नाम मरियाना है. मैं होटल में सफाई का काम करती हूँ जैसे आप करते हैं. मैंने हिंदी सीखी है क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि हर भाषा एक नई दुनिया खोलती है. The employee stopped what she was doing and looked at Emily with total surprise. आपकी हिंदी बहुत अच्छी है, she replied excitedly. आपने कहाँ सीखी? इंटरनेट से और होटल के मेहमानों से, replied Emily. The employee turned to the court with tears in her eyes. She speaks Hindi very well. She translated with a heavy accent. She said she learned from the internet and from hotel guests. That's very difficult. Hindi is a very complicated language. And what did you talk about? Asked the judge. She greeted me and said she works cleaning a hotel like me. She said she learned Hindi because she thinks every language opens a new world. Emily's final demonstration was the high point of an already extraordinary afternoon. She had proven not only that she mastered 11 languages, but that she used that knowledge to connect with people from all backgrounds. Now we're done, said the judge, clearly moved. I believe we all learned something valuable today. Can I say something? Asked Lily, tugging on the hem of Emily's dress. Of course, sweetheart. I want to learn all the languages that Emily knows, announced Lily, and I want to teach other kids too. Why? Asked the judge, curious. Because when we understand people's language, we understand their heart too, replied Lily with the simple wisdom of children. Lily's answer echoed through the room like a profound truth. Everyone present understood. They had witnessed something much bigger than a custody hearing. They had witnessed a lesson about humanity, prejudice, and the transformative power of knowledge. Mr. Anthony knelt down to be at Lily's eye level. Lily, he said slowly in Portuguese, when you learn Italian, you can come work at my company too. Lily laughed, amused by the offer. First, I need to finish school, she said sensibly. Of course, laughed Mr. Anthony. But the offer stands. Karim, the Arab employee, also approached. Emily, he said in Arabic, أنت قدوة لجميع العاملين هنا. شكرا لك على تمثيلنا بكرامة. What did he say? Mon asked the judge. He said that I am an example for all the workers here, and thanked me for representing them with dignity, translated Emily, moved. And it's true, said Karim in Portuguese. You showed that an honest worker has value, has intelligence, thank you. Jennifer Chen, the Chinese interpreter, also wanted to speak. 今天真是令人难以置信的一天, she said to Emily. 你让我们都感到骄傲. She said, translated Emily, that today was an unbelievable day, and that I made her proud. 谢谢您, replied Emily. 今天我学到了很多关于勇气和坚持的东西. Now she thanked me and said she learned a lot about courage and perseverance today, translated Jennifer Chen for everyone. Dr. Audrey didn't want to be left out. Emily, she said in French, vous êtes un exemple magnifique de ce qu'on peut accomplir avec de la détermination et de l'amour. Félicitations. Merci beaucoup, replied Emily. Votre gentillesse aujourd'hui signifie énormément pour moi. She congratulated me and said I'm an example of what you can achieve with determination and love, translated Emily, and I thanked her for her kindness. The spontaneous show of affection from people of different nationalities created a magical moment in the courtroom. It was as if the whole world was celebrating Emily's victory. Dr. Natasha, the Russian teacher, made a point of saying goodbye in Russian. До свидания, Emily. Удачи вам и Лили, she said warmly. До свидания. Спасибо за вашу поддержку, replied Emily. She said goodbye and wished good luck to me and Lily, translated Emily. And I thanked her for the support. Even staff who hadn't participated in the demonstrations came to congratulate Emily. The story had spread quickly through the courthouse halls. The judge watched the entire celebration with a broad smile on his face. "Miss Rodriguez," he said, "in 20 years on the bench, I've never seen a hearing end like this. You've turned my courtroom into a celebration of nations." "It wasn't intentional," said Emily, laughing. "I just wanted to prove that I was capable of taking care of Lily." "You proved much more than that," replied the judge. "You proved that knowledge has no social class, that determination can overcome any obstacle, and that true love is the best education you can give a child." Dr. Michael, the psychologist, asked to make a final observation. "Your Honor," he said, "I'd like to note that this hearing should be used as an example in judicial training courses. It was a practical lesson in how prejudices can blind us to exceptional talent." "I completely agree," said the judge, "and I'll make sure that happens." Dr. Carolyn also wanted to comment. "In 15 years as a social worker," she said, "I've rarely seen a family as close and loving as Emily and Lily. This decision was certainly the right one." "So now," Lily asked Emily, "what are we going to do?" "Now we're going home," replied Emily, picking up her sister. "You're going to take a bath, eat that pasta you like, and I'm going to teach you your first words in Korean." "Korean?" asked an excited Lily. "Are you learning another language already?" "I started last week," confessed Emily. "There are some Korean guests at the hotel who are very kind." The judge laughed out loud when he heard that. 12 languages, then?" he asked. "Not yet," said Emily. "Korean is very hard, but I'll manage." "I have no doubt," replied the magistrate. As everyone was preparing to leave, Aunt Barbara approached Lily for the first time. "Lily," she said timidly, "can I give you a hug?" Lily looked at Emily, who nodded encouragingly. "Okay," said the girl, but without much enthusiasm. Barbara hugged Lily delicately, as if she were made of glass. "I promise I'll be a better aunt," said Barbara. "I'll learn to really know you." "All right," said Lily, "but you'll have to learn languages too. Emily says the more languages we know, the more friends we can make." "I will," promised Barbara. "Maybe you can teach me." "I can," agreed Lily. "But it's hard, you know. You have to be patient." The conversation between aunt and niece drew laughter from everyone present. Lily was clearly taking on the role of teacher with all the seriousness of her 8 years. "Emily," said Mr. Anthony before leaving, "I'll contact you on Monday to sort out the details of your job, and don't worry, the hours will be completely flexible." "Thank you so much," said Emily. "You have no idea what this means to us." "I think I do," replied the businessman, "and I'm sure it will be a very productive partnership." Karim also said goodbye. "Emily," he said, "أتمنى لك ولليلي كل التوفيق في الحياة." "شكرا جزيلا كريم. أنت رجل طيب جدا," replied Emily. He wished me and Lily good luck. She translated for the others. "And I thanked him and said he is very kind." Jennifer Chen also made a point of saying goodbye. "Zai Jian, Ai Mi Li, Zhu Ni He Li Li, Xing Fu Kuai Le," she said, hugging Emily. "Zai Jian, Zhan Ni Fu." "谢谢你今天的帮助," replied Emily. The multilingual goodbyes created an emotional atmosphere in the courtroom. It was as if Emily was receiving blessings from the whole world. When they finally left the courtroom, Emily and Lily walked down the street holding hands. The sun was setting, painting the New York sky with orange hues. "Em," said Lily, breaking the silence. "Are you happy?" "Very happy," replied Emily. "And you?" "I always knew we would stay together," said Lily with conviction. "You are my real sister, not just because we share the same blood." "Why?" "Because you chose to take care of me," explained Lily, "and choosing is stronger than blood." Lily's wisdom touched Emily deeply. She stopped walking and knelt down to be at her sister's eye level. "Lily," she said, "you are the most important person in my life. Everything I do, everything I study, everything I dream of, I think of you." "I know," said Lily, hugging Emily. "And when I grow up, I'll take care of you too." You don't have to, said Emily. You just need to be happy. I will be, promised Lily. And I'll be smart like you. You are already smart, said Emily. You just need to stay curious, keep wanting to learn. They resumed their walk towards the bus stop. Their lives had completely changed in one afternoon, but they still had to take the crowded bus back home. Em, said Lily as they waited for the bus, now that you're going to earn more money, can we eat pizza every Sunday? Emily laughed at Lily's priority. Yes, we can, she said, and you can choose the flavor. What flavor is there in Japanese? Asked Lily curiously. I don't know, admitted Emily, but I can look it up and we can try to make it at home. And in Arabic? I don't know that either. We'll discover it together. The bus arrived crowded as always. Emily picked Lily up to protect her from the crowd. During the ride, Lily dozed off on her sister's lap, exhausted from the exciting day. Emily took advantage of the silence to reflect on everything that had happened. In the morning, she was just a cleaner fighting to keep custody of her sister. Now she had a new job, public recognition of her talents, and the certainty that Lily would stay with her forever. When they got home, to the small apartment in Queens, Emily put Lily to bed without waking her. The girl was smiling in her sleep. Emily sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and turned on the old computer she used for work. There were messages from several clients congratulating her. Apparently, the news of her demonstration in court had spread through social media. One of the messages was from Mr. Weber, her German client. Emily, I heard about what happened today in court. I am very proud to work with you. You are an inspiration to all of us. Another was from a French company that had seen videos of the hearing and wanted to hire her for translation work. A third was from an American university offering her a full scholarship to take an online linguistics course. Emily could hardly believe what was happening. In a single day, her life had changed in ways she never imagined possible. She opened a new document on the computer and began to write. Dear Diary, even though I've never written a diary before, today was the most important day of my life. Not only did I manage to keep custody of Lily, but I also discovered that my story can inspire other people. I learned that sometimes you need to fight to be heard, but when people truly listen, amazing things can happen. I also learned that prejudice makes everyone lose. I lost opportunities because of other people's prejudice, and they lost the chance to know who I really am. But the most important thing I learned today is that knowledge is the only thing that no one can take away from us. That's why I will keep studying, keep learning, keep growing. And I will teach all of this to Lily, so that she never has to prove her worth the way I had to prove mine today. Thank you, universe, for giving me the strength to never give up, Emily. When she finished writing, Emily realized she was crying, but they were tears of happiness, of relief, of hope. She went to the bedroom and kissed Lily's forehead, who was still sleeping soundly. Thank you for giving me a reason to never give up, she whispered. Lily smiled in her sleep, as if she had heard. Emily went back to the kitchen and opened her Korean books. She still had a lot to learn, many dreams to fulfill, many opportunities to seize. But now she knew the world was ready to listen to her, and she had a lot to say. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of this incredible story of overcoming adversity. Do you believe Emily made the right decisions? How would you feel if you were judged solely by your appearance? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to leave your like to support our channel. Subscribe so you don't miss other inspiring stories like this one.